Welcome back, everyone. I've got some key points from 3 different articles about the same thing, starting with an article from The Guardian from the 22nd of November 2021 titled Woodside BHP Forge Ahead on Scarborough's Gas Project in WA. The Scarborough's field will be one of the biggest fossil fuel developments to be built in Australia in a decade. Energy giant Woodside will forge ahead on the Scarborough gas project off Western Australia's northwest coast after it gave the project's final approval. The $16.2 billion Scarborough project is a joint venture between Woodside and BHP, and the announcement posted to the ASX on Monday afternoon also confirms the two companies have agreed to a $14 billion merger of their petroleum businesses, creating one of the world's biggest fossil fuel companies. A report by the Conservation Council of Western Australia and the Australia Institute released in June found the project would release 1.6 billion tonnes of greenhouse gases across its lifetime, or the equivalent of 15 coal-fired power plants. Under the company's carbon abatement plan, Woodside would be allowed to increase its emissions of greenhouse gas over the next decade before attempting to reach net zero by 2050. Woodside Chief Executive Meg O'Neill said the project would mark a transformative movement for the company and insisted it would be a source of low-carbon gas. Okay, moving on to the next one from the ABC, titled Era of Mega Projects Over with Woodside's $16 billion Scarborough Last Hurrah for Gas, from the 23rd of November 2021. Gas is a fossil fuel, and its exploitation produces emissions including methane, which is a much more potent global warming agent than carbon, at least in the short term. According to the company, the Scarborough field contains about 0.1% of carbon dioxide. By the way of comparison, the massive nearby Gorgon Reserve, operated by US giant Chevron, has a carbon dioxide content approaching 14%, amounting to millions of tons of extra emissions. This is relevant because the normal course of events, the carbon from these gas fields would have to be vented into the atmosphere unless it could be stored underground, or sequestered as the industry calls it. While Chevron has pushed a policy of carbon capture and storage for Gorgon, it is a process that has been blighted by problems, and there are questions about whether it can work. As Australia moves towards a net zero target by 2050, such an overhang of carbon would need to be offset through measures such as purchase of credits or planting of trees, all things that cost money. So, in a world where carbon is not only a reputational but economical risk, Scarborough was at an advantage compared with other potential gas projects around the globe. For the most part, the molecules extracted from Scarborough fields, piped 430 kilometres onshore to Karratha, chilled in a processing plant and loaded onto a ship, will be used for power, heating and industry in China, Japan and South Korea. There, that gas will be a major source of carbon to the tune of almost 900 million tonnes, according to Woodside's own estimates. Alright, and here's the last article I want to show you about this from the Financial Review, titled Woodside Gas Project Go Ahead Prompts a Bit of a Jig from Morrison, from the 24th of November 2021. Woodside's top climate executive Tom Ridgell-Smith has hit back at environmental criticism of the $16.5 billion Scarborough project carbon emissions, saying they will result in a net reduction in global pollution. The Prime Minister said in a virtual address to the Business Council of Australia's annual meeting he did a bit of a jig outside the parliamentary chamber when Resource Minister Keith Pitt informed him of the decision on Tuesday. I couldn't be more thrilled, Mr Morrison said. That's such a shot in the arm for our economy. The company says the project will emit over its 30-year lifespan 878 million tonnes of carbon, which is the equivalent of more than 2% of the annual global energy-related CO2 emissions, based on International Energy Agency data. Woodside's decision to press ahead with its Scarborough gas project, as well as expanding its Pluto operations with a new gas train, is being branded by green groups as Australia's new Adani. However, unlike the 2019 political fight over the Queensland coal mine, both the Coalition and Labor are fully behind Woodside's project, which they say will deliver important jobs, growth, taxes and export income. Alright, now time for me to rant about everything. I'm probably not gonna waste my breath on things that are obviously wrong with everything I've just shown you. I'm gonna go after things that other people may not have picked up on. Starting with how the gas companies have tried to act like they're gonna do something to help with the whole climate change issue by stating that methane, although it's more potent, its lifespan isn't as long compared to carbon dioxide. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you'll see how that is absurd for the fact that methane, a hydrocarbon, is what the gas companies are going after. That's what they're trying to extract and then sell to people. And now, as for carbon dioxide, you might recognize it from such things like, exhaling or perhaps photosynthesis. And so with this understanding, we can see why cutting down the rainforest is a big issue when it comes to climate change. And now this brings me back to methane, the hydrocarbon. And now when we look at what can happen to a methane molecule, it doesn't matter whether it's in the atmosphere or reached its final destination of being fuel for a fire. What's going to happen when it has a chemical reaction with oxygen is you're going to end up with carbon dioxide and H2O. Yes, fire can make water because you're going to need 4 oxygens to separate the methane to get 2 of the hydrogens to go with an oxygen each, and then 2 more oxygens for the carbon atom to become carbon dioxide. As you can see, that's pretty much all that can happen here, which then leads me to methane would just result in more carbon dioxide. Whenever you burn anything that is carbon, whether it's a tree or a hydrocarbon, because you need oxygen for fire, you're gonna end up with carbon dioxide.